CNN projects Donald Trump wins the presidency.
It's the Batshit.
I'm very highly educated. I know words. I have the best words.
Crazy Pants.
It is time to drain the swamp in Washington, D.C.
Super Show.
But we are transferring power from Washington, D.C. and giving it back to you, the people.
Helping you navigate this batshit crazy pants world.
So I got a president who likes me now. Look at those hands. Are they small hands?
Are you totally deranged?
And now, your bus driver, Matt Stevens.
Oh, yeah. Because that's how it goes. Hello. And welcome to the Batshit Crazy Pants Super Show. I am, of course, your host, Matt Stevens. You can follow me on the Twitter at the Matt Show 365. You can also do the same on Facebook. It's super fun to do that on Facebook. You can do that as well at the Matt Show 365. And, of course, you're listening on Spreaker. If you want to listen to other shows, I do a musical theater show called The Musical Show, which is a lot of fun. If you like musical theater, if you don't like musical theater, I don't recommend listening to it because that's all that gets played. And if you like sports, I do a show called Polar Opposites, which is up now, newest episode up now. So you can listen there, too. Those are my distractions from the batshit crazy pants world that we live in every single day. That's how I get through the day, right? That's how I get through the day without wanting to kill everyone around me, including myself. Relax. Okay, relax. We got a lot to get to today. We're gonna start things off with the meme about the missing girls that came out a bunch of days ago. And we're going to go through all of that and the sort of just massive problem that exists on such a grand scale we'll get to it. It's a lot. It's a lot to get to, and it's really just so telling about how we as a society deal with things like this and how our media deals with things like this. We're going to get to talk a little education. Donald Trump sat at a tiny desk and started stripping education standards because why would you want smart people? A well-informed electorate is exactly what the Republicans don't want, and so they started getting their way there, as well as with teachers. Also, a public school had an abstinence-only person come in, and that person got destroyed by a senior in high school, which is always fun. We're going to talk a bit about Russia, but from a different perspective. Democrats and Dick Cheney agree on stuff, which is sort of scary, and what Trump is doing with the military-industrial complex should literally scare the crap out of you. And since our good story of the day, our fun story of the day, our awesome story of the day is a Republican getting taken in and arrested for voter fraud. And finally, the batshit crazy pants thing of the day. Bill O'Reilly finally makes an appearance. It took longer than I thought, but hey, sometimes it's in God's hands, right? Sometimes. We're going to start things off, though, with this meme that came out recently that said 14 black or Hispanic girls had been abducted in 24 hours in D.C. It went around Twitter, it went around Facebook, it went around all of social media, which took an epic viral tour around the whole social media sphere. And it turned out not to be true. Well, okay, I'm going to parse my words here. I'm going to Snopes this if I were. It's sort of down the middle. Okay, the problem here is that the problem here is that some of it is true, and that is bad enough. Okay, so we start. Okay, the reason that people freaked out about this, and they should have freaked out about this, but not the initial meme. The initial meme was not correct. The initial meme was not correct in time span, not girls. Okay, so right now, so what the DC police was doing is they're starting to use social media to get the word out on missing persons. They're starting to use it more to get the wording out on missing persons, including missing children, specifically black and Hispanic girls, okay, whose parents may not have the money or they may not have anybody looking out for them to go and hire somebody to get the media to pay attention to their story. We'll get to all that in a second. So the D.C. police is trying to do a good thing here, and they sort of did it badly. And not badly in the fact that we're talking about it, but badly in the fact that they scared a bunch of people into thinking that something that wasn't true was true, even though it's about half true. So they started doing this, and what they did was in a day they put out 19 or 15 or however many it was in a 24-hour stretch, and people who were following it saw this and thought all of these girls had disappeared in that time span, when in actuality some of the girls had disappeared a couple years before, some of the girls had disappeared more recently. Okay? So Snopes took a look at this, and they said that it's a mixture of truth and fiction. That right now the D.C. Police Department said that there's been no uptick in missing Black and Latina girls in the area. And that the 14 teenagers missing within 24 hours was not true. That there were 22 open cases involving missing teens in Washington, D.C. as of March 22nd, and 13 open cases as of March 27th. Chanel Dickerson, who is the head of the department's Youth and Family Services Division, was quoted as saying, "I'm not trying to minimize that other people are missing, but they look like me. I just want to make sure that every investigation is focused on every child the same way, that we give the same exposure to everyone, regardless of race or where you live." It seems fair, right? A kid is a kid, right? The kid is a kid, doesn't matter. A person is a person, it doesn't matter. Whether they're poor or rich, shouldn't we talk about them being gotten as well? According to the FBI, as of February 2017, there had been a total of 13,591 active missing person records for African-American women stored in its National Crime Information Center. Of that total, 8,042 were of the age of 18 and under, and 1,419 were between the ages of 19 to 21. Okay? Keep in mind, when you think about these numbers, right? When you think about them, okay? And we're going to get to percentages in a second. Think about this when we get to this whole thing. African Americans make up 13.2% of the country. 13.2. Studies have shown that 36.7% of all missing persons under the age of 17 are Black. .2% of the country, 36.7% of all missing persons under the age of 17 are Black. Now, according to the D.C. police, now most of this is D.C., but according to them, 95% of the children who have gone missing in 2017 have been located. In fact, some of the 10 teenagers who vanished this month have already been found. Now, not all of these are kidnappings. Some kids run away. That happens. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it happens. So that can explain some of it. But 36.7% of all missing persons under the age of 17 are Black. Yet they only make up 13.2% of the country. That is such a systemic problem that it's almost hard to wrap your mind around how a fake news sort of has brought out real life and real stories. That somebody who misinterpreted tweets by the D.C. police, who took it upon themselves to make this meme, and who thought they thought when they did it that it was real. And it is real, but you understand what I'm saying. So this person, no, I mean, I know they were trying to bring awareness to this, but I don't think they knew they would bring awareness to it the way they did. Because we investigate stuff now. And it should be investigated. That is a fucking crazy number. A crazy number. 36.7% of all missing persons under the age of 17 are Black. 13.2% of the country. According to the Associated Press, over 500 D.C. children went missing in the first 3 months of 2017. But that's not an uptick. It's also happening to LGBTQ kids. I live in New York City, so we very, very much remember last year when the Karina Vetrano, the 30-year-old jogger, the white girl, was raped and killed in Queens. I'm not sure anybody would know the name Marilyn Reynoso. She was the 20-year-old Latina from the Bronx who disappeared in July and then whose body was found about a week later in the Bronx dead. I mean, folks, this isn't outlier. This isn't grading on a curve. This isn't they make up 90% of the country, so they should have 36%. I mean, like the numbers on this is maddening. It's maddening. So much so. And look, folks, I'm sorry. Let me actually, you know what? Let me start there. Let me talk to the black community for a moment, if I will. And I'm not saying you're all in alignment, but just as a whole, the people, the black community of the United States, I would like to apologize. And I know it doesn't do anything, and it doesn't help, and it doesn't make anything better. But I would like to apologize for my own ignorance. Now, I knew that missing persons, especially children, was a problem. The sex trafficking industry and whatnot, and the slave industry has taken off, and a lot of the missing kids probably end up in those things. What I did not realize was the epic outweighing of the disproportionate craziness of black and Latina young women being abducted over all others. And that's our fault. That's the media's fault. That's people like me's fault who do this. I don't do it for a living, but we're so worried about what Trump is going to do to us. And yes, what he's doing is bad. I'm not minimizing. I'm not trying to normalize him. But we have a massive problem in this country that we really need to take hold of. And it's actually time that people like Trump and Paul Ryan and whatnot start talking about stuff like this. But here's the thing. If it was 36.7% of white girls that were missing, we would have a war on white girls missing. And that's the problem. Because the real problem, as it always is in these situations, is racism. It's bigotry. It's that feeling that Rick Wiles got after the 2012 election that he didn't know what it was. He then later attributed to voter fraud. But what it actually was his seething hatred for the fact that a black person was about to tell him and make laws for him for the next 4 years. The reason they don't talk about this is the same reason that Reagan didn't talk about AIDS until a white person got it, a straight person got it, not a gay person. They don't talk about it because it doesn't affect them as much as it affects somebody else. And to be honest with you, they don't really care. They don't really care. This has become such a problem. They started a separate alert for black and Latina girls. There's Amber Alert, and that's for everybody. But they started a group, started a different alert just so that black and Latina girls get the notice that they deserve for being missing. I'm going to pronounce this name wrong, and that makes me really sad because this little girl died. She was 4. Okay? She disappeared. Well, we don't know when she died. She disappeared from her foster care when she was 4. Her name is, I'm just going to spell it. It's Rylya. I want to say that's Rylya, but I don't know for sure. Okay? So just know that I do not mean to mispronounce that. It is my own shortcomings, not her lovely name. And those are the alerts that they have to set up separate alerts. They have to set up separate alerts. Now, the great Gwen Ifill coined the term missing white girl syndrome, which is an actual thing. The media, people have studied this. They've studied it so much so that in 2005 and 2007, they were compared to official missing children statistics. It was found that African-American missing children and female missing children were significantly underrepresented in television news coverage. I mean, that's not shocking. We knew that existed. Natalie Hollowell, all those people. But now we know that. Now we see numbers. And the numbers are stark and they're disturbing. And the fact that we can't coalesce, the fact that we can't come together to save kids, no matter what their color or ethnicity or background is more of a condemnation of us as a country than anything else, and how little we've actually come in the past couple hundred years as opposed to as far as we think we've actually come. This should be the front page story on every newspaper, and it should be what every police officer is trying to do. It should be literally what people are working on all the time. The news should be talking about this every day. Where are these kids going? Who is taking them? Are they all just running away? Are they being taken overseas? What is happening? Where are they going? Why are we not looking into this? And again, I'm just as ignorant as everybody else here. This isn't, I'm not coming to you saying that I've been here the entire time. That would be a lie. It would be a fucking lie. Sean King has a great article. If you can go back in the Daily News, it's from March 22nd. It's Sean King's article. He talks about some of the girls that have been gone that you've never heard of. Never heard of. Relisha Rudd. Have you ever heard of her? I haven't. Sharia Payne. I have never heard of her. Shania Boyd. I have never heard of this person. Phoenix Colden. I've never heard of this person. Officials in this is from Sean King's article. Officials in D.C. are quick to say that 95% of the cases of disappearing girls and women have been resolved. But the fact remains that of the 5% that haven't, all 37 of the girls and women are Black and Latina. Found all the white kids. I recommend you going to read the Sean King article. I also recommend you follow him on Twitter and on Facebook, because if you really want to know what's happening in the country as far as race relations and police brutality and apparently missing Black and Latina girls. I mean, this little girl's adorable. She's got a little like things in her hair, pigtails, stuff like that. She's adorable. She's been missing for 3 years. She was 8. Nobody cares about her. But if they had a picture of her in front of a church with a white family and she's in her little white communion dress, the fucking country would lose their fucking minds. And that's the problem, right? I definitely recommend you go read that Sean King article. Just go read it. It's not long. He just touches on, but it's so eye-opening, and it makes me so sad that that we don't know. How do we not know? How do they not tell us? I think that's more the anger here, is how did they not tell us? How did they not come to us, the media, and say, this is happening? We have to do something about this. Why haven't police departments gone, like, screaming from the rooftops? We need help. We need help. This is happening at a systemic rate. News cameras are everywhere, following people all the time. We have thousands of people following useless idiots. We should have people who just go into these people and put cameras in their face and say, my daughter is missing. We need help. Now, even though this is a massive problem in the Black and Latin community, it is a problem all over the place. This is from Fact Retriever. Every year, more than 800,000 children. This is Karen Lehnart, Lehnardt. Every year, more than 800,000 children are missing in the United States. In 1980, roughly 150,000 people were reported missing per year. Now that number is 900,000. Now, I assume that 150 is a soft number because there were people probably just didn't get reported. And it's so easy to report now that you probably just get more reportings. Now, it shouldn't have jumped that much. Of the 692,944 people reported missing in 2010, 531,928 were under the age of 18. What the fuck is going on? How do people know these numbers? How is this literally not the story that leads the news every day? I wish I had the resources. It is estimated that nearly 800,000 children will be reported each year in the United States, will be reported missing each year in the United States. 40,000 in Brazil, 50,000 in Canada, 39,000 in France, 100,000 in Germany, 45,000 in Mexico, and an estimated 230,000 children in the UK. Or one child every 5 minutes. And then you top it off where in D.C. last week, they had a town hall to discuss this, and only black people showed up. And I'm not kidding. There are pictures on Twitter about it. Only black people showed up. And they're right to be pissed. And we're going to get to it later, okay? The Bill O'Reilly is a thing where we're going to get to something that I really, truly believe. And when I say this, and that black people, honestly, you guys should, I don't know how you do it. I really don't know how you do it. I don't know how you like this country. I really don't. We have literally done nothing but kill, ignore, and destroy you for hundreds of years. Yet you are still here. You are still showing up at town halls. You are still getting involved in local politics. You are still trying to make the country a better place. You are still voting. You are still doing all of these things. To be honest with you, I don't think I could do it. Y'all are better than me because I'm not sure I could ever do it. I really don't think I could ever do it. Because when you are hated, now, not everybody hates black people. I certainly don't. And I know everybody I know doesn't too. But what I'm saying is when you feel like you've been hated and enslaved and made to feel unequal, or actually been held unequal, or every path that you take, somebody is trying to block you from the same rights and privileges that somebody else has. It's amazing. It's amazing the fortitude and the will to still want to try and change it. Because I don't know if it'll ever be changed. Next up, we go to education because, hey, why not, right? We love education, don't we? We got our education secretary, Betsy DeVos, who is literally the smartest person in the world. But today was a day where white people got in a room and decided to take away privileges and equality or the laws that keep those things in place away from gay, black, Hispanic, anybody who's different from white kids, basically, okay? Now, you got to go look at the picture, and we're going to get to the desk in a second, but the desk is spectacular. It's almost like Trump was being punked by the guy who set up the room. It's almost like the guy who set up the room was Obama, and he just, walked in he went and found the tiniest desk and just walked out friggin' snickering, him and Joe Biden, high-fiving each other. We got him. He still has keys or something, So because we have all these ridiculous laws in place, you have the Congressional Review Act, which is a piece of legislation that is meant to overrule regulations passed by the executive branch, okay? So the House Republicans axed these education regulations in February, and because they did it through procedure, the Senate could then just send it to the president without it being filibustered by Democrats. The act is known as Every Student Succeeds Act. And what it does under the regulation, schools receiving federal money from the Department of Education are required to abide by certain accountability rules that ensured all students, regardless of race, gender, or income, were received a quality education. Like, why? Why waste your time? Seriously, why take the time to get a bunch of people into a room and sit at a tiny ass desk and sign out legislation that makes it so that if you receive federal money, you have to be equal. You have to treat everybody equally. Why is that a bad thing? But it gets better. The second rule is in place. It places a series of training requirements for teachers in order to make sure they pass muster as educators before they're put in classrooms. Because that's what we want to get rid of, right? See, all I hear Republicans talking about is teachers suck and they're the worst, and teachers are the worst. They don't do anything. They're terrible. Anybody could be a teacher. But let's take away all the things that help them be good teachers, even though we kill them from being bad teachers. I mean, it's a classic Republican move. But you see, Republicans have never seen a regulation they didn't want to squash, because here's the biggest thing you got to remember, folks. Republicans don't want you to learn anything. They don't want black kids or Hispanic kids or gay kids, especially, or girls, or especially learning anything. They don't want them learning anything, because if they learn something, they'll realize that they've been literally bent over a table for their entire race's existence, at least in this country, by white guys. And I'm a white guy. So Trump took time today to basically stick his middle finger up at black kids, gay kids, Hispanic kids, Asian kids, girls, all different kinds of kids who aren't white boys, and said, you know what? I don't give a shit if you get a quality education. I could care less. Because my kids will, because I'm rich. And that's all that matters. And as for teachers, hell, if I don't care about the kids, why would I care about the teachers teaching the kids? I don't want them to be good teachers, because if they're good teachers, then the kids will learn something. And the only thing that the Republican Party fears more than anything, the thing that they fear more than anything, is a well-informed electorate. Which they don't have right now. And that's why Trump is president. On to the next education thing, and this is great. So I guess what I need Democrats to do, and if you're listening, Democrats, I would like you to do this. So there's a law in place where if you can't use federal money to pay for abortions, right? I think that that's kind of a stupid law, but whatever. I'm willing to give in on that one, okay? But in exchange for that, I would like it so that federal funds or public high school funds can never be used to have abstinence-only programs come to their high school and give lectures. Shelley Donahue, who is a Christian sex educator, last Wednesday was at Jenks High School, which is in Oklahoma. She went there and talked to the kids. And we're going to get to her webpage in a second. But you have things where let's just give you a little lesson into what she's saying, okay? First of all, let me say this. We know, and if you're a smart person, if you're a free-thinking person, you know that abstinence only most certainly does not work. It does not work. It does not work. Kids are going to think about sex. That's what puberty does. It makes you think about sex. If you're a boy riding on the fucking school bus and going over a bump will give you an erection. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you have Jesus in your heart or not. Your dick is going to get hard. Okay? Let's just start there. Now, this is from actually this is via Dead State from a student named Brooklyn Wilson who was at the meeting. Now, she talks about some of the things that were said. This is some of the things that she said. Do you know why girls are so desperate and always text guys first? 2 words, daddy left. Daddy leaving is a life-changing and heartbreaking situation. But the stereotype... this is from Brooklyn Wilson. So she talks about... So that's what... This woman got up in front of people and said, the reason that girls text boys first and are desperate is because daddy's not there. Let me tell you something. I've met girls who are absolutely the neediest people in the world, and their dad was home all the time. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But listen to this. I'm going to read you a part of what Brooklyn wrote on Facebook when she talked about this, because it's really sad when the senior in high school is smarter than the person that the school paid to come in and talk to them, okay? This is what she wrote, and it's brilliant. It's really good. I demand an explanation, not just an apology, but a reteaching of a positive, healthy, and secure way of having safe sex that does not belittle other students' family situations, which are already hard enough for them to deal with. It is heartbreaking the hate I was shown today by the adults who are supposed to be our leaders and protectors, and I cannot let it go unnoticed. And she's right. Because just that sentence alone, daddy left, is wrong. First of all, she is preaching in a public school, which should be against the law. She is there teaching faith-based abstinence, which should be against the law. Because that's the government taking a stance, right? That's the government declaring a religion, right? By saying that premarital sex is bad and abstinence only is the only way we're going to teach our kids. The kids aren't stupid, especially kids today. They're definitely not stupid. Kids today have access to more information at any given time in their life than any kid in history. In history. They're not stupid. They're not stupid. Now, some are stupid, but there's always stupid people. You know what I'm saying, though? When I was a senior in high school, I would have never written this. Now, I had good sex education because I went to a good high school, but still, this isn't, you want to, we talk about this all the time. You want to stem the time of STDs in this country? Teach proper sex education. You want to stem the tide of abortion in this country? Teach proper sex education. You want to stem the tide of teenagers having babies? Teach proper sex education. Now, abstinence should absolutely be a part of that. Because here's the thing. To guarantee that nothing happens, you don't get VD, or you don't have a kid before you want to have a kid, abstinence is the only way of guaranteeing that actually happens. 100% guarantee. If you don't have sex with anybody before you get married, all of those things won't happen. But that's not true. Everyone's not going to do that. They're just not going to do that. And bringing a hateful person in who is speaking on religious terms and talking to high school kids, she is doing more harm than good. She is hurting these kids way more than she's helping them. And it's not even close. You're going to make sexual deviance out of some of these kids because they're going to have it in their head that sex is bad. Sex is really, really bad for you. And if I do it, I'm going to do this. And then you get kids who then have to push that onto other kids, and it becomes a whole thing. We have to stop. This is something we have to stop. We have to stop teaching abstinence only. And we have to stop letting the religious leaders of our country get in the way of teaching our children the proper way to be a fucking adult. Now, you can go to her website, ShellyDonahue.net, and it's hysterical. She has tall. So she calls it tall truth, because she's tall. She's like 6'3". And you can go read her story, how she went to college, and, you know, she found Jesus, and yada, yada. You know, the whole thing. So there's outlines of what you're going to get when you go to these workshops, right? And she recommends separating the boys from the girls and the middle school kids from the high school kids. And then this is the outline. Who's having the best sex in America? Singles, marrieds, divorcees, or collaborators or cohabitators? And why? Have great intimacy someday in your marriage, exclamation point. Peace, physical, intellectual, emotional, social, and spiritual aspects of sexuality. Here's the thing. They don't sound batshit crazy, but when you know what she espouses, they are. Media messages, pornography's effect on your future. Who says it's okay to have sex before marriage? Media. Why? Who wants you to wait? Parents. Why? Why do people have sex? What is intimacy? This is a woman who doesn't understand this. This is a woman who is trying to live by something that she probably, I don't know for sure, could actually live by or did live by. Because we know that the Palins don't live by it. We know that for a fact. At least their daughter doesn't live by it. Now, I don't give a shit that she has 2 kids out of wedlock. I could care less. I mean, I care that she had 2 kids because she's an idiot, but I don't care that she had 2 kids out of wedlock. That's your choice. It's what you do. But I can tell you for a fact that abstinence only doesn't work. And if you go look at this site, you're going to go see what those kids were learning in that school, and it just breaks it makes my head explode. Because you're teaching them to hate their bodies, to hate who they are, to hate the feelings that they have, to hate what other kids are doing. You're teaching them to be unaccepting of other different ways of life and different ways of being. You're making kids, you're scaring the shit out of them. These are senior and high schools. I guarantee you at least half of that auditorium had sex already. Okay, I can't guarantee that, but you know what I'm saying. Or at least did some over-the-clothes stuff, right? Most people, by the time they're a senior high school, is made out. And so we have a real problem here, too, with our kids. Again, it's always about our kids. Why do we shortchange our children? Why do we continually give our kids worse than what we had? Why does that keep fucking happening? The people who gave birth to the baby boomers had it the best. And that's not true. It was a very bad racial time. But take race out of it. I'm talking about economic and education and stuff like that. The education we get now is not nearly the same as the one I got. And I'm not that smart. But we cannot, Democrats, pay for religious persecution and religious nonsense of abstinence only in our public schools. If I can't have public money paying for abortions, then you most certainly cannot have public money to pay for abstinence only programs that we know from studies does not work. We know that when you teach regular real sex education, that abortion rates go down, STD rates go down, teen pregnancy goes what? Down. Abstinence only doesn't work. Mr. President and Russia is always in the news. It's always in the news. But we have some strange things happening because Dick Cheney came out. But when did he come out here? It was maybe yesterday, maybe the day before he came out. And he thinks that, I'm just going to tell you what he thinks. I actually think that their engagement was an act of war, an act of hybrid warfare, and I think that's why the American people should be concerned about it. There's no question. There was a very serious effort made by Mr. Vladimir Putin and his government, his organization, to interfere in major ways with our basic fundamental democratic process. And I apologize, the other quote was actually Jack Spire, Democrat from California. We'll get to that in a second. So Dick Cheney, the head of the military-industrial complex with Halliburton and all his bullshit, has come out and said that Russia tampering on our elections is an act of war. He did not call for war. He did not say that. But he made a point to point out that Putin wants to do stuff, and he's done this in the Baltic states. He made a point to point that out. He did nowhere that I've seen did he say that we should actually go to war, but he said it is an active war. And we're going to get to the words in a second because the words are important, right? They're always important. Words are always important. Now we have the Democrats come in. We already heard from Mr. Spire. And the Democrats are agreeing with Mr. Cheney, which may literally be the first time that's ever happened. Okay, that's not true. But still, you know what I mean. But they're talking about war too. Bonnie Watson Coleman, Democrat in New Jersey. I think this attack that we've experienced is a form of war on our fundamental democratic principles. Eric Swalwell of Democratic California. This past election, our country was attacked. We were attacked by Russia. I see this as an opportunity for everyone on this committee, Republicans and Democrats, to not look in the rearview window, but to look forward and do everything we can to make sure that our country never again allows a foreign adversary to attack us. Senator Ben Cardin, Democrat in Maryland, likened it to a political Pearl Harbor. Now you go on the other side. And the hawks, the usual hawks, the Republicans are like, they're being a little alarmist. They're being a little alarmist. And it's they just want to belittle Trump's win by associating him with Russia. Take Trump out of it for a second, guys. Take the investigator of the Trump campaign out of this for a second. And just look at it for what it was. A foreign power screwed with our elections. That alone should piss Republicans off. We'll get to why they may not be so pissed off in a second, but still, that alone should be why they're pissed off. And you have Republicans fluffing it off as, Democrats just don't want to believe that they lost the election. It has nothing to do with that. It literally has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the fact that a foreign power screwed with our elections. Now, how much or little that actually did, I don't know, but they did. They hacked into Podesta and Hillary Clinton's emails. They had all this stuff, and they released it at specific times, okay? They did screw with our election. That's already been decided. We know it. Was Trump involved? We're going to figure that out. But it doesn't matter if Trump was involved. It doesn't matter. They still screwed with our elections. Now, we're going to get to the word war. Because I would have preferred they put the word cyber in front of it. Because when you're dealing with a megalomaniacal maniac like Vladimir Putin, you want to make sure you choose your words very carefully. Now, nobody has called for war. Nobody has called for actual war. What they're calling for is to make sanctions harder, to continue to make sanctions harder. But we know Trump's not going to do that. We know he's not going to do that because they're buddies. But the worm is turned when you have one side saying this is an act of war and the other side saying, hey, you're just being alarmist. Imagine for a second if we had the same proof on ISIS hacking into our elections and Trump lost. Just imagine that scenario for a second. And we would never, ever, ever hear the end of it. And the conspiracy theories would be fucking crazy pants lunacy. But wrap this all around the fact that the president is filling massive amounts of seats in Homeland Security and Pentagon with positions with defense contractors and lobbyists. Jim Mattis and John Kelly. They're the secretaries of defense and Homeland Security. They worked for defense firms beforehand. Pat Shanahan, this is from an Intercept article, okay? Nominated last week by Trump to serve as Deputy Secretary of Defense. He's a vice president at Boeing. Elaine Duke, the nominee for Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security, previously consulted for Booz Allen Hamilton, General Dynamics, and the Colombian Group. They make unmanned drones. The nominee to lead the Air Force, former New Mexico Congresswoman Heather Wilson, worked as a consultant to Lockheed Martin, a Lockheed Martin subsidiary. Trump's pick for National Security Council Chief of Staff, retired Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg, has worked at a variety of defense contracting companies. After serving a senior role in Iraq's provisional government after the 2003 invasion. Chad Wolf and Laura Race, two recently appointed advisors at the Department of Homeland Security, are formally registered defense lobbyists. We are going to war. It will not be with Russia. In fact, it might be they might be by our side. Who knows? We are going to war. There will be a war, or he will try to get one. And you know how I know this? Because look what he's doing. The military-industrial complex is not need to be any bigger, and he is making it huge. And not only that, he's making the people who make the decisions all people who worked for the military-industrial complex. Do you remember back, I want to say it was during the election when he said this?
It is time to drain the swamp in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, it's time to drain the swamp in Washington, D.C. Except we're not. We're making the swamp bigger. And we're filling it with people who worked for Boeing and Halliburton and Lockheed Martin and all the other defense contractors that are out there. And how do they make money? By blowing shit up and going to war. So what purpose do they serve being in there if it's not going to be to push to make these companies more? Think of how much money Halliburton made during the last war, during the Iraq war. It's unbelievable. And so, folks, be careful. Be careful, because this is what he wants. War makes money for certain people, and that's what he wants. He wants war. Is it going to be with Russia? No. Is it going to be with North Korea? Meh. Is it going to be with ISIS or any sort of weird rogue nation like Iran? Maybe. But it won't be with Russia. The people who actually declared war on us by attacking a cyber war on us, by attacking our elections and helping Trump get the presidency, by maybe even colluding with him. Now, I say maybe because we don't know for sure, but they definitely were involved in our elections. But we're not going to go to war with them. All the people I'm putting into the military industrial complex, we're not going to go to war with them. They're not brown. They don't have towels on their head. Ridiculous. Real quick, because this is just too good to pass up. Last week, really just a wonderful person, Steve Curtis, who is a conservative radio host and used to be the chair of the Republican Party in Colorado. Yes. Was convicted of voter fraud. Now, this is a conspiracy theorist wackadoo who said virtually every, I'm going to read you the quote exactly. Virtually every case of voter fraud I can remember in my lifetime was committed by Democrats. And now him. He was convicted of election fraud. He was actually convicted of forgery as well, because what he did was, the way we found this out is his wife, who divorced him, obviously, because he sounds like a dick. Kelly Curtis, she called the South Carolina to get an absentee ballot because she had moved, but she didn't move enough time to re-register, so she needed an absentee ballot. When she called, they found out that the ballot had already registered in her name, but she didn't do it. He did it, and he voted for her, signed her name, and sent it back. That is voter fraud. And if you think about it, it's hysterical. Because here's the biggest problem of this whole thing is that he doesn't think he committed voter fraud. He probably, I'm not kidding, guys. You know, Matt, of course he has to think he did. No, he probably thinks that his ex-wife didn't deserve a vote and that he should have his vote for her. This is a class 5 felony. I don't know what that means as far as time served, but it's just delicious, right? It's delicious. Now, this is the second guy. This is the second guy that we know of that has done this. Virtually every case of voter fraud I can remember in my lifetime was committed by Democrats. I guess. Except this one?
It's time for the Batshit.
Hail Trump!
It means that what the Jews have, we have.
The worst.
Crazy Pants.
Perpetual war, corruption, and pedophilia party.
Help! Help! I'm being repressed!
For some reason, homosexuality has become the issue for the left. It's satanic.
Brain game is now over.
Thing of the day. That's right, kids. It's time for the Batshit Crazy Pants Thing of the Day. And making his first appearance on the Thing of the Day is our good buddy of the O'Reilly Factor. That's right, Mr. Bill O'Reilly. He was on Fox and Friends this morning, so you know the president was watching. And I'm just going to let them take it. And then I got some clips we're going to play on as well. I want you to pay special attention to the woman. There's only one because it's Fox, and there's always one, but there's ever only one. And I want you to pay attention to her because she actually kind of not saves the day, but it's. I'm afraid she might get fired. Just pay attention.
Did you hear? Yeah, not to be confused with Jesse Waters. Maxine Waters.
I love her.
She says,
why
do you love her?
Maxine Waters should have her own sitcom.
Absolutely.
Okay? All right? It's just, people get angry with Maxine Waters. I want more of it.
Okay, I'm so glad
Let's
you asked.
go.
Listen.
Okay. We have suffered discrimination. We have suffered isolation and undermining, but we stand up for America, oftentimes when others who think they are more patriotic, who say they're more patriotic, do not. When we fight against this president and we point out how dangerous he is for this society and for this country, we're fighting for the democracy. We're fighting for America. We're saying to those who say they're patriotic, but they turned a blind eye to the destruction that he's about to cause this country. You're not nearly as patriotic as we are. So what does that mean, Bill? We've been listening all morning. We cannot.
I didn't hear.
They can't figure out what it means because they're idiots, okay? I'm going to get to that in a second because that's not the batshit thing I was talking about. But I'm going to get to that in a second because it's part of it, right? Their inability to understand what this woman is very clearly saying.
A word she said, I was looking at the James Brown wig. If we have a picture of James...
Right, so she makes a valid point, right? And what do they do at Fox? They immediately attack her looks. She's wearing a James Brown wig. She's got nice hair. I don't understand the problem. I'm looking at the woman right now. James Brown did not have that wig.
It's the same. It's the same one, right?
No,
and he's not using it anymore.
I got to defend her on that.
You're all wrong about this.
I have to defend her on that. You can't go after a woman's looks. I think she's very attractive.
But I didn't say she wasn't attractive. I love James Brown. But it's the same hair James Brown, the Godfather of Soul, had.
So he had girl hair.
Whatever it is, I just couldn't get by it. You're all wrong about Maxine Waters. Number one, she's a sincere individual. Whatever she says, she believes. She's not a phony, all right? That's right. And that's old school, all right? If you're not a phony...
old school, you got this new book coming out.
So we giving Maxine a break here. I love you, Maxine. I want to see you on The Factor. And when hell freezes over, I'm sure that'll happen.
Right. Now.
So there you go. Sorry, that's Media Matters' little sounder at the end there. So he didn't pay attention to what she said, which was an excellent point. It was the point I was kind of making before. And he didn't listen because he was looking at her hair. I couldn't pay attention to what this strong black woman was saying about her people being more patriotic than white people and understanding what she was saying because of...
Didn't hear a word she said. I was looking at the James Brown wig.
It's not hard. Listen again what she says. I'm going to play it for you right now, straight through. I'm not going to stop.
We have suffered discrimination. We have suffered isolation and undermining, but we stand up for America, oftentimes when others who think they are more patriotic, who say they're more patriotic, do not. When we fight against this president and we point out how dangerous he is for this society and for this country, we're fighting for the democracy. We're fighting for America. We're saying to those who say they're patriotic, but they turned a blind eye to the destruction that he's about to cause this country. You're not nearly as patriotic as we are.
Do you want me to break this down for you? I'll give you the 5-second version. Equality is patriotism in this country because we are equal. That's patriotism. You want to be a true patriot? It's not the knuckle-dragging fucktards who walk around with the Confederate flag strapped to the back of their truck wearing signs with black people hanging from nooses on them. Those aren't the patriots. Those are the bad ones. Those are the people who cry patriotism every time just to change the subject. What she's saying, and I can't say this for sure, but when she starts off with this, she's talking about black people. And black people are more patriotic. I don't know why, but they kind of are. Now, they may not be the flag-waving, clowns who show up drunk at 4th of July being like, fireworks, America. They may not be the ones that stand up for the national anthem, like Colin Kaepernick, who didn't stand up. But what they're espousing, what they do, what they're not standing, what they're doing, the way they act is extraordinarily more patriotic than anybody that she's talking about could ever hope to be. Because in this country, patriotism is one thing. It's equality. It's not about the flag. It's not about it's not about anything except this. Equality. Our country is based on it. Well, it should be anyway. They had to fix some things in the beginning, so it took them some time. But they finally fixed it, and it should be based on equality. Real patriotism is about bringing people together to find the common good and help the community as opposed to ripping them apart based on their gender, race, creed, religion, or origin. And I know it's hard for the people at Fox and Friends to understand because they are literally the dumbest people in the world. And Brian Kilmeade and Steve Doocy literally might share a brain. That's how stupid they are. I would like to thank Ainsley Earhart for chiming in and saying you cannot attack her looks. You cannot attack her looks. Because it doesn't matter. She could look like fucking Quasimodo. It wouldn't matter. What she is talking about, Fox and Friends, in case you need it, and what Bill O'Reilly doing when he says stuff like this.
Didn't hear a word she said. I was looking at the James Brown wig.
Your dismissive attitude is so infuriating that I want to reach through my screen and choke you to death. Because her point is so valid. If you look at per capita, the amount of blacks in the military as compared to the amount of whites, it's not even close. And we're talking about people like we talked about before. The media doesn't give a shit about all the young black and Latino girls that are gone. Missing, gone. We send black kids to die every day, yet they weren't treated as equals, and they probably still aren't in some people's eyes, but at least by the law 80 years ago, and were enslaved less than 200 years ago. That's patriotism. Moving past how you feel about them and understanding that people might feel differently than you and still going out there and helping. Understanding that equality is the way to go, always and forever. Before we go, I got to play this because it's freaking hysterical. Actually, I'm not going to play it because the people laughing in it really pisses me off. Anyway, thank you so much. It was about the chair that he sat in, and it was a bunch of white people laughing as rights are getting stripped away from kids. You can look it up if you would like. He sits in a small chair. It's funny to watch him do it, and I think that Obama and Biden did it to him. Thank you so much for listening. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at TheMattShow365. This has been the Batshit Crazy Pants Super Show. We'll be back Thursday at 7 o'clock.
Farewell and adieu to you fair Spanish ladies. Farewell and adieu, you ladies of Spain. For we've received orders for to sail back to Boston. And so never more shall we see you.